Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's Sunday. It's a little cloudy here in Oakville, but you know what? It's going to be an amazing day today because today we're talking about first principle thinking. So anybody that's joining us live on Facebook Live or on Zoom, welcome. If you have any questions, like always, please post them on Facebook Live. I will be monitoring that chat. I will also be monitoring the chat on Zoom. Anybody that's there, welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're going to talk about first principle thinking. And what is first principle thinking? Well, let's go back yesterday, all right? Yesterday we talked about the relationship between the thought, emotion, and action. And so today we're going to expand on that and why that thought is really, really important and how do we change our thoughts so that we want the right emotion and the right action so that we get away from the setbacks that we're experiencing. So today, again, it's going to be a really, really interesting day. Somehow for one particular reason or another, it seems like that we have sort of ended up on the weekend with some of the two most important topics that we want to talk about, but that is all good. Recording will be available via YouTube, via the Facebook Live, as well as anybody that's joining us right now. So again, thank you all for joining. This is really, really exciting. I've just recently actually got two screens and we did the setup yesterday. So I'm having a bit of a challenge trying to get both screens working really well. But we are here, so that's all good. I'm just going to get this thing going over here. Gallery view. All right, that's awesome. So let's get going with first principle thinking. And my okay, I have somebody coming in and my screen is sort of frozen. Let me just get them in. All right. And we have a person in Zoom. Thank you. So we're just going to get started here in a second. Hey, Nasreen. Hi, Nasreen.
Hello, Karim. How are you?
Good to see you on a Sunday. We're just getting started. I just had a new setup yesterday, so I'm having a bit of a challenge getting everything going, but I am ready now. My mouse was sort of frozen on me, but so let's get started. So today we're going to talk about first principle thinking, I said. And yesterday we talked about the relationship between thought, emotion, and action. And so today we're going to see why the thought is really important and how do we start managing our thoughts, because our thoughts is really everything. So, here's a great saying that I want to start out with is, every action and feeling is preceded by a thought. Now, it's really important that, I want to bring the diagram from yesterday where we have this wheel-like thing that is in a clock where thoughts, emotions, and actions are all interrelated. I said, they have a symbiotic relationship. And often we think that thoughts create feelings that create actions. And I had suggested yesterday is that what if we were to turn that around and say, you know what, if we have a thought and we go straight into action, does that change our feeling? And the example that I've given is sometimes when you have a feeling, I want to go to do yoga, and you go, oh, I'm really tired, because that's the emotion that you're feeling, or it's going to hurt me. And so you don't take an action and you don't do yoga. But on the other hand, if you had the thought that I should do yoga, you go and create and do that action, and then your end feeling is, wow, I feel so great. So now you have changed that whole thing around. It's sort of like a pattern interrupt. So we want to start thinking how we can actually start even at the thought level and start questioning our thoughts. And that's why we think about first principle thinking. Now, I want to bring this concept over here about thought. Thought is the only power which can actually produce tangible results to us from the infinite intelligence. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we live in a world where thought actually is everything. It is what creates the universe, and it is what we actually get from the universe. So let's take the example of a communication tower, right? We have these cell phone towers all over the world. Forget even cell phone towers. Think about the internet. Could we live without the internet today? We could not live without the internet, right?
No.
And think of it this way, right? When you go to Google, what do you put in there? You put words.
Yes.
When we look at the algorithms for Facebook and sometimes have you noticed this even with Google? You may just do a search for a car, and all of a sudden you're getting all these ads about cars.
Yes.
Right, and it will even go as specific as that particular model, right? And so if they have picked up how the universe works, why aren't we tapping into that same knowledge?
Mm-hmm.
That when you create a thought, that thought actually goes out to the universe and you start attracting exactly what you're thinking. If you look at the web is very similarly set up to how the human brain and the universe functions. And so we need to start tapping into that for our own lives to be able to get the greatest impact.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Socrates says, I know you won't believe me, but the highest form of human excellence is to question oneself and others. And that's where first principle thinking comes about. It's about actively questioning everything that you know. And we start actively questioning it, then you start looking at your limiting beliefs and the thoughts that you're getting and why you are getting those thoughts and how can you transform those. So today we're going to introduce this first principle thinking. First principle thinking is really, really important. There is only 3 steps to it, right? The first step is to identify the assumption. When you have a thought, there is an assumption behind that thought. The second is to break down that problem and then finally create a solution out of it. So those 3 steps sound pretty simple. What I'm going to do is actually break it down into 5 steps for you. And I'm going to say, how do we take that step 1 and 2, break it down into further step 5, and then create the new solution, which is we're going to call the outcome. So our first thing is assumption. Albert Einstein said, assumptions are made and most assumptions are wrong. Think about this question. A man and his son were rock climbing in a dangerous mountain. They both fell and the father died due to the fall. The son was taken to the hospital and the old surgeon said, I cannot operate on this child. He is my son. How can that be?
Yeah, how can that be?
You see, we just made an assumption that only a male can be a doctor. It could be his mother.
Yes.
Right? So simple, right? We live in the 21st century and yet we have a tough time believing that it could have been his mother
Mm-hmm.
because we assumed that the doctor can only be male,
Yes.
right? It's
Yeah.
the thoughts that we have.
Mm-hmm.
So can
Yeah.
you clarify your thinking and explaining the origin of your ideas? What exactly do I think is the challenge?
Mm-hmm.
When did I start thinking that way? Where did I decide that this was a situation? And why do I think this way? That's the first thing. So every time you have a thought, you have a thought that I should go to yoga, but it's going to be painful. Then find out, where is it painful coming from? Is this pain because you actually experience pain?
Mm-hmm.
Was it because that somebody told you that yoga is very painful? Or you have these images of somebody else who can totally twist themselves and you can't twist yourself?
Yeah.
All of those things come into play. Whereas when
Mm-hmm.
you actually go to yoga, none of that is true. Right? So can we change the assumption that we have about it? So then
Yes,
the
we can.
second thing that we do is we challenge that assumption. How do you know that this is true? Who is the one that's actually thinking this? Where is it
Mm-hmm.
coming from? Right? Why do I know that this is true? This creates a dialogue that otherwise we just assume the truth and we just leave it the way it is. So can we start questioning that and challenging that assumption? And then the next step we look into is evidence, right? How can you back this up? So when you say that, yoga is painful, can you back it up that the last time you felt, well, did you feel pain or did you feel good after you were done with it? What are your sources? Is it media that's telling you that? Or is it your personal experience or your friend? Who told you this? And then even if it was your friend or somebody that you trust, it is again their assumption of it. It's not yours. So why wouldn't you take a step towards it? And often it's negative thinking, like, for instance, I have to write this exam, but I can't write it because I'm going to be not prepared or I'm going
Yeah.
to fail, right?
It's not even not prepared. It's just the word exam sweats the crap out of me.
Yeah. So then, and that's the thing. So where did that thought come from that exams are stressful?
I guess because I've been through it. I've
Exactly.
experienced.
But we all have, right? And
Yes.
unfortunately, we have put this thing that we talked about, remember, in the previous models of competition. Exam and competition are now the same word. because I need to compete against something. And if you so change that thought process like we're doing, is well, what if an exam is not a competition, but it's a mode of me expressing my creativity?
Yeah, that's true. That will work.
Change the assumption, change
Yes.
the narrative, change the evidence. Look at it where it's coming from. Okay, I think that an exam was because my teacher had told me that I need to pass this, otherwise I'm not going to move to the next grade. But the exam that you may write right now may not be that at all. Right? My son recently wrote an exam, and when because of COVID, he hadn't written a physical exam for a long time. So this was the first one that he had to write. So the experience was different, the emotion was different, the environment was different. So when he came back, I asked him, how was it? And he goes, it was okay. And
Yeah.
then just day before yesterday, he came with a big grin on his face and he goes, I can't believe the mark that I got. And I go, why are you surprised? You worked hard, you put the energy out there to make sure that was done. He goes, but it was just a different feeling and I wasn't sure about it. So often we limit ourselves because of the thought that we have. Can we change that? Right? So what are your sources? Where is this evidence coming for you that the exam is hard or the exam is not possible or that you're not able to write it? Go back to that evidence and then change that narrative. And we're going to go through that example today to see how we sort of work with that.
Okay.
The next thing we want to do is to look at alternatives, right? What might others think? How do I know I am correct? So when you say it's difficult and I can't write it, ask yourself, well, what if I am correct and I can write it? Right? That is the alternative. We always focus on I can't do it, I can't do it. And so your thought starts creating this multiple process where the original thought has nothing to do with the original one. And so you build that thing. The thinker thinks, the prover proves.
Yeah.
And self-fulfilling prophecy comes into play. So why don't you change that self-fulfilling prophecy to one of positive as opposed to one of negative? Right? How do I know I'm correct? Is further proof required for this?
Yeah.
So the fact is that I can't write this exam. Well, why can't I write this exam? Because I'm not sure, or I have this previous belief, or people have said it's more difficult, or people say you have to do this. Well, that's somebody else's opinion. It's not yours.
Yes.
So think about it. If this organization is offering an exam, it is only because a lot of people have actually gone through it and at the end have had a result. Not everybody is failing. Not everybody is defining a difficulty. There's people who have done it. So then rather than focusing on it's difficult and people fail, I could be one of those persons that has passed and be able to do it.
Yeah, I have to rewrite my mortgage agent certification exam because my certificate expired 2 years ago.
Okay.
Thinking
So
of getting back into the mortgage agent field.
nice. So think of it this way. I would reframe that and say, I've already returned it once and passed it. So I have nothing to worry about.
Yes.
Right? So reframing that makes a huge difference, right? And so when you do that, your outcomes change. Right? Examine the consequences of the outcome. What if I'm wrong, that I'm not able to do this? Then I'm going to be back to the situation where I am. Whereas if I'm right, I've now got an opportunity to do something different. And why does either of them matter? Remember, what if we were to live in a place from non-judgment? The challenge becomes we go into judgment, and that's where the challenges reside. If we're not in judgment, then none of this happens. There is no right or wrong. There is no good or bad. When you work from that creative mode, good and bad, right and wrong does not exist.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but then the family will say 100% ki na maila site 40% ki davya.
So who does that matter to? You or them? Right? Go back to the question.
As long like I said, when my daughter Alicia was in school, she brought 70%. And I told her I'm not happy with 70%. She goes, what's wrong with you, mommy? It's okay with the government.
Right. And so again, we are putting our own judgment into it.
Yes.
Right? And 70% may be okay for something.
Yeah.
Whereas 90% may be for something else. It's again what you want and what you need to place. Let me give you this example. I think this will help you out, right? For all of those that have taken the grade 11 exam, talking about exams, we know that in a lot of times that grade 11 or 12 exam, meant whether you could go to the next school. So in the olden
Yes.
days, you sort of had to pass the grade 11 exam before you would go into grammar school and stuff like that.
Yes.
So there was this community where they were taking these exams and the results arrived. And
Mm-hmm.
Graham, who was not the smartest person in class, apparently,
Mm-hmm.
had also his results, and everybody was around the community looking out for the results. And the letter came in, they opened it. And when they opened it, Graham's mom and dad were excited because he actually had gotten in. So they went to share the information with everybody around. Now,
Mm-hmm.
everybody around was expecting their kids to actually get in, but it was totally opposite. Graham got in, but everybody else didn't. So what had ended up happening is that the parents and the students all started talking to Graham and saying, how could you get in? This is all fixed. You don't
Yeah.
deserve to go into grade 11 or grade 12 grammar. You shouldn't be getting into grammar school. And so when Graham actually started going to school, he had the highest,
Mm-hmm.
listen to this, he had the highest absenteeism rate of any child in that school. And he
Wow.
failed miserably.
Mm-hmm.
Although he had qualified to get into it, he was told grammar school is only for brainy kids.
Wow.
God knows how he managed it.
Mm-hmm.
Graham went into the grammar school with that limiting belief that we create. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not good enough. I can't
Yeah.
do this, right?
Mm.
A belief that should not have been there,
Yes. True.
right? Eventually, Graham left grammar school, finished his O levels with low expectations, whilst everybody else around that hadn't gone to grammar school actually went into university, took on
Mm-hmm.
apprenticeships, and did really well.
Mm-hmm.
Graham unfortunately ended up with a warehouse job,
Yeah.
but this is where his life changed.
Mm-hmm.
One day, a director of the business called him in the office and says, Graham, I've seen something in you and I believe in you. I think you're prepared to work in a much more effective environment. I want you to become a sales team leader. I believe in you and I want to give you this offer. Graham could not believe it. For the first time, someone had taken interest in him and he rose to the challenge. He went on to take courses, he read books, and with more knowledge, he
Mm-hmm.
gained and became positive. And
Mm-hmm.
what ended up happening is that he actually went on to become one of the most successful salespeople. Not only that, he ended up opening two of his own successful businesses.
Wow.
So when we change the way we think
Yes.
internally and
Mm-hmm.
externally,
Mm-hmm.
remember that web thing, right?
Yes.
It is not only the results that you're actually looking for out there, but it's what's giving to you, because if you see the ad and you click on it, you're going to get more of those ads. So
Mm-hmm.
which ad are you going to respond to?
Yeah.
The communication that's happening on the internet today is exactly how the universe operates.
Mm-hmm.
The thoughts that we put out there. So every time you now have a thought, we have this questioning. Ask those questions. Let me pull that slide up back and see those three questions that we need to go through, right? Identify the assumptions, break down the problems like we talked about, and create new solutions. And the way we break them down is we look at our assumptions. Is this true? Challenge those assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Find evidence in those assumptions. What are the alternatives, and change your outcomes. And so Gandhi says it really, really well. Your belief becomes your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your values becomes your destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really powerful.
Yes,
All right.
it is.
All right. I think I've gone over again today, but thank you so much for everybody that's joined. Thank you again for all your support. And tomorrow we talk about the 4 questions. And this is going to be really important. What are the 4 key questions that we can ask ourselves to change the way we think and the way we change manifestation? This is the last week that we're going into. This is where the rubber meets the road. We're going to start doing some more activities and questioning in terms of how do we change our setback to our triumph. Thank
Okay.
you. Have an
Thank you.
awesome Sunday.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.